Hello, welcome back to the series of lectures on tulip cultivation. In today's part, we will talk about how to cultivate and commercially produce these tulips. Ordinarily, tulip is a plant which can be cultivated under temperate conditions, and the time of its sowing as well as the duration of its sustenance by that habitat is specific. Ordinarily, the tulips are sown in the month of October to a maximum of 15th of November. Usually, this is carried out primarily because the cooler temperatures do not facilitate the germination potential of these. Therefore, under all the conditions in which it is grown, it has been usually specified that it should be sown in the month of October from 15th up to a maximum of 15th of November. The habitat of the plant essentially prefers a soil which is slightly sandy in texture. This sandy texture of the soil is primarily because it facilitates the excessive seepage of moisture irrespective of the heavy rainfall or sometimes even heavy snowfall. It has been seen that if the water gets logged into the habitats in which the tulips have been sown, that waterlogging can destroy the bulbous portions during the winters. Therefore, a new concept has been initiated wherein Kareva types of the lands have been created, as you can see, wherein the tulip beds or tulip habitats are created in such a way that in the all portions of these beds we have small canals created through which excessive moisture seeps out. Further, every year it has been seen that this soil is tested to show the sandy texture to remain intact. However, in case the sandy texture of the soil is lost, it has been advised that prior to the preparation of the land for tulip sowing, one must add a specific quantity of the sand to the soil, and after this sand has been added, essentially two important practices are followed throughout the world. These practices are, number one, that once we dig the soil, the digging depth should be roughly estimated from 10 to 12 inches. As you can see, they dig it up to 12 inches deep, and during this digging, usually an organic fertilizer, especially cow dung manure or sometimes cow dung manure mixed with sand, is added to this, as you can see again. This essentially loosened up the soil so that the loosening of the soil facilitates the seepage of the moisture. After the soil has been prepared, the land is then dug out into small pit-like structures where the depth of the pit varies from a minimum of 6 inches to a maximum of 9 inches, as you can see. This is again related to the fact that once we sow a tulip slightly lower up, that is only 6 inches deep, it has been seen that it is subject to an the attack of insects and pests and sometimes even mice also. However, if these tulip bulbs are sown much deeper, that is up to 9 or 12 inches, as again you can see deeper, it shows that this depth actually protects them from the invasive insects, pests as well as mice. It has been seen that after this, usually the bulbs or these particular portions should be completely covered with the soil as well as sand. We can show you how the tulips is to be first of all identified. As you can see, this is the basal portion or the bulb of the tulip. Ordinarily, at the time of sowing, this should be cleaned of almost of all the parts, dust, etc., as well as dried foliage, and then this portion, that is the lowermost portion of the tulip, should be chopped up and planted in the soil in an erect manner like this. This way, it facilitates the growth of the roots downwards as well as the growth of the shoots upwards. Once we plant it, this tulip in turn is to be immediately covered with soil, and if the soil is very dry, extremely dry, in that case, after covering, whole of the soil as well as part of the tulip should be moisturized with addition of small quantity of water. It has been seen that water addition facilitates the absorption of whatever nutrients are available around this particular tuber, and then it also helps it to actually grow properly in its medium. Furthermore, it has been seen that in case water is not added or in case the soil has not been moistened, sometimes this non-moistening or non-addition of water actually helps the insects, the pests or sometimes rodents, mice, etc., to move into this plantation and try to actually consume these bulbs that have been sown. It has been seen that this sowing as well as irrigation should be complete prior to 15th of November. This is primarily because if it is carried out after 15th November, the temperature may drop down to minus or sometimes less than that. It has been seen that that lower temperature actually hardens the soil, freezes the atmosphere around the rhizome, and that freezing actually proves negative to the growth as well as to emergence of the shoots of this particular rhizome. It has been seen that these rhizomatous or bulbous portions actually prefer the irrigation only at the time of sowing, because during winter they do not actually need any artificial irrigation because of the availability of natural irrigation in the form of either rainfall or snowfall. It has been seen that during December as well as January, ordinarily on the seed beds or on the bulbous beds, one cannot see the emergence of the main axis. However, as soon as the spring starts setting in, that is usually in the first week of February or second week of February, we find emergence of the aerial parts or the shoots. It has been seen that this shoot emergence is actually related to the spacing of the rhizomatous portion or the bulbs that have been sown. Ordinarily, the preference for these bulb spacing is from a minimum of 9 to a maximum of 12 inches apart, and within rows the similar pattern is followed. That means we have in each row a minimum space of 9 and a maximum of 12 between two bulbs, and adjacent rows are only about 9 or 12 inches apart. This is primarily because this spacing facilitates the absorptive potential in terms of soil, in terms of nutrients, in terms of water to the particular bulbous portion that has been sown. Then it has been seen that at the time of sowing, the pattern of cultivation is also divided into 3 different sections. They are only on the basis of the types of tulips. It has been seen that the flower production of a tulip is categorized into 3 main types. One is referred to as early season tulip, second is referred to as mid season tulip, and third is referred to as late season tulip. And wherever we cultivate tulips, we try to plant them in 3 sequential rows. First for early season tulip, second for mid season tulip, and third for the late season tulip. This also is related to the size of the main axis on the top of which the flower is produced. It has been seen that the first row is preferred to be slightly dwarfer in size, second row slightly taller, and the third row the tallest tulip row. This has been seen not only to provide a important decorative facility of the particular garden, but also helps the sustenance of whatever flower has been produced by whatever type of bulb that has been cultivated. This concept also has helped us to use the remaining areas, that means the space that have kept between the rows and between the bulbs in the row itself, for cultivation of other ornamentals. This is primarily because this helps us not only to use the particular bed or a particular field for tulip cultivation, but also use it for cultivation of other ornamentals as well. It has been seen that if we follow this row plantation and plantation on the basis of size, another aspect should be followed, and that is an aspect where we can cultivate them on the basis of colors. You can see we cultivate tulips in different color rows, so that each row actually has one type of flower, one type of color, and one type of plantation, so that in one particular garden, as you can see again, we have many different rows planted, and each row size variation shows prominently, color variation shows prominently, as well as durability and sustenance shows prominently. It has been seen that even in this row plantation, if we try to cultivate certain ornamentals in between them, that will actually sprout or produce flowers after the tulip flower has senesced. It has been seen that this concept has helped to not only use a particular area for commercial cultivation of tulips, but also use it for commercial cultivation of other ornamentals which can produce flowers at the end of the flowering period of a tulip. It has been seen thus this particular practice is useful not only at domestic level, but also suitable for commercial production of tulips as well as other ornamentals. However, one must also take care that tulips during its productive phase, that is when it starts to grow vegetatively as well as starts to produce flowers, it does not need any irrigation, because if any excessive irrigation is provided to this particular plantation, it has been seen that the flower durability, as you can see sometimes flower durability, the plant durability actually is drastically affected negatively by addition of the moisture. This is also exemplified by the fact that if unseasonal rainfall is observed where the tulips have sprouted, they are in plume of flowering, that rainfall or that cooler weather actually hampers the survival potential of the tulips. Therefore, we must always identify a ornamental which is to be grown in collaboration or coordination with tulips, which does not need excessive irrigation or which does not prefer slightly wet habitats. Further, after the flowering phase of the tulips is complete, that is we have flowers at the peak, there are two ways of using them. The most common way is to harvest these tulips, that is to cut down the tulip branch and then sell it in the market in the form of a flower bundle, where it can be individual bundle of a particular tulip or it can be a combination of different flowers into one where tulips also form a part. Further, it has been seen that ordinarily there is one concept that is accepted universally, and that concept is that the tulip should never be present singly. There is a theory of Holland wherein they claim that unless and until a presentation of 10 to 15 tulips is given, it is ordinarily not accepted. And the same concept has been initiated in other parts of the world, wherein not one but many different tulips are provided as such. Historically, you can also see in some of the photographs that have been found in literature where the people have actually used not one, not two, but many flowers, not only to decorate themselves, but also to decorate different parts of the home as such, in the form of lands, in the form of gardens, in the form of even the creation of in the form of infrastructures which are all comprising of the tulips as such. It has been seen that another modern practice that is at present even now seen in England, they construct or try to decorate either terrestrial motorization equipment, that is sometimes vehicles, sometimes small motorcycles, or sometimes small vehicles, cars, etc., or sometimes even aquatic transportation facilities like boats, etc., which are completely decorated with these tulips. And you can see a picture of that wherein a vehicle as well as a boat has been decorated with tulips. Now imagine how much of a time it has taken and how many tulips have been involved, but it has been seen that whenever such a boat or such a motorcycle or a vehicle is created of this particular type, millions and millions of people tend to come and watch it as to how it looks like. This is primarily because the ornamental value of a tulip is used to decorate almost anything and everything on the basis of its flower structure and color variation. However, one of the fundamental drawbacks of these tulips is that they cannot survive after being chopped off or harvested from a plant for longer duration. But at present, another new concept has been developed, and that is to actually store them in polybags, in small polythene bags, so that that polythene bag is able to protect it for as long as we want. And you might have seen in the market, whenever one tends to purchase flower bundles, you will find them all decorated or covered with a poly bag, as you can see, wherein a bundle of flowers is being protected on the outside by polythene. This polythene in turn has been seen to protect the flower for as long as we want. In case of tulips, another new concept has been developed, especially in Holland. What they do is they try to actually dry up the tulip mechanically, wherein there is no change either in its color or in its shape or in its size, and then try to trade it as it is. Now visualize a dried tulip, preserved tulip to be commercially sold as an ornamental, and it has been seen that this tulip is actually purchased in almost any and every part of the world as a plant, as a dried plant material which can be used as an ornamental within specific locations inside the house, in the rooms, in sometimes in almirahs, and sometimes in racks where they can remain as long as we want. This concept has helped the commercial production to achieve a height wherein its production as well as its usage is improving with every passing season. After the flowers have been harvested, one must also then try to monitor the field in which it has been cultivated. Here, two things are important. Can we allow the bulbs to remain in the field as long as we want, or these bulbs are to be harvested and resown next year? It is said that initial concept was the same, that is, it was to be allowed to remain where it is, so that next year it will reproduce the flowers. However, there is one drawback, and that drawback is that if we allow it to remain in the same field for more than one particular growing season, not only the bulb size but also the bulb productivity in terms of its value also decreases. That is why a new concept is to harvest a bulb when the aerial parts, that is the above ground portions, as you can see, above ground portions try to dry up completely. At that stage, the signal is that the rhizome is at a stage where it, or the bulb is at a stage, it's so that it can be harvested from its habitat. Technically speaking, this is actually referred to as bulb harvesting stage of the tulips. At this stage, what is usually done is that the soil in which it is cultivated is allowed to completely dry up, so that with the help of a digging chisel manually, not any mechanical means are suitable for this, that is very important. Manually, individual bulbs are taken up, slightly dried open again in the sunny conditions or in slightly shady conditions, so that whatever soil is adhered to it is removed, and after it is removed, these bulbs, on the basis of their size, on the basis of their color, as well as on the basis of the variety that has been harvested, they are separated into groups, and each group in turn is tried to be stored. Now, technically speaking, there are two methods of storage. One is to store it in a particular container which can facilitate the normal edaphic conditions in which the bulb can survive, and usually for that wicker baskets, as you can see, a wicker basket is used so that these bulbs remain continuously exposed to the conditions in which we store them, and no moisture content, no humidity or no excessive temperature actually destroys it. However, if we want to trade in these bulbs, can we use these wicker baskets for that? No way, because trading of wicker baskets in the form of containing bulbs is not possible because of the size as well as because of the quantity that has to be exported. In this case, second phenomenon has been developed, and that phenomenon is considered to be one of the most important or latest development by Holland people or Holland cultivators. What they do is they try to dry up these bulbs and then pack them in polybags. Again, you can see in small polybags, and try to store them airtight. That means they try to bring out almost all the air from that polybag and try to trade it as it is. Here again, one important factor is that one must not see any leakage of either humidity or moisture or excessive heat into this, because any of these factors sometimes facilitates the loosening of the moisture content, which in turn facilitates growth of fungi, pests and other microbes which destroy the bulbs. It has been seen that if one wants to trade these bulbs, if one wants to sell these bulbs, the trading should be carried out after he analyzes these bulbs, these specific types of bulbs, specific colors of bulbs, so that that analysis reveals whether it is free of any insect, free of any pest or free of any excessive quantity of moisture, because any of these factors during trade, during storage, during exportation or even during importation can not only destroy this particular bulb, but can also destroy whatever adjacent plants, whatever adjacent bulbs are lying in the vicinity or are transported with that same bulb. It has been seen that at present, whosoever trades them or whosoever wants to purchase them, he first asks whether the bulb has been properly harvested, whether the bulb has been properly treated, or whether the bulb has been properly analyzed for any disease or pest, because if that infected bulb or infected or diseased bulb is introduced or getting introduced into the area where it is to be cultivated for a commercial purpose or for domestication purpose, it will not only destroy itself, but it may destroy whatever other plants are cultivated in that area. It has been seen that for this, Holland has actually used a new concept, what is actually referred to as a concept wherein during its cultivation and during its harvesting, addition of different components is important. Among these components, addition of NPK, that is nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, an inorganic fertilizer NPK is to be added in a ratio of 5% is to 10% is to 5%, that is N 5%, P 10% and K 5% is to be added to the soil, because it has been seen that this addition actually facilitates the durability of the bulb, not only in its habitat during its cultivation as well as growth, but also helps its survival after it has been harvested. However, here one must be cautious that if they add fertilizers like urea, that addition of urea not only destroys the bulb storage potential, but it also destroys the productive potential of the field in which it has been cultivated. That is why at present the concept is to cultivate it in those soils where only NPK is required and where organic nutrients or organic fertilizers, that is the biomass, has been added prior to the cultivation of these particular bulbs. Then during storage, it has also been analyzed that if the humid condition of that room or that particular chamber is slightly higher, in that case one must facilitate the aeration immediately, because excessive humidity is considered to be responsible for growth of insects and pests on these bulbs, which in turn are basically a source of food for these microbial entities. Therefore, whosoever protects them or tries to preserve them for a longer duration, during that he should regularly monitor roughly from a period of June to a maximum period of 6 months or sometimes less than that up to October, so that during this period not even a single bulb or a few bulbs get infected either by insects or by pests, because if one gets infected, that infection consequently spreads to almost all the adjacent bulbs lying in the same area, and that has been seen to sometimes destroy the productive potential of particular cultivator for longer durations. And new concept as per the Holland's cultivators is that if anybody develops a cultivar or a variety during his cultivation practices, he must actually attain what is referred to as a cultivar's patent. Now, this cultivar patent is not only helping the cultivator, but also helping the institutions where it has been achieved to gain whatever he has spent during the development of that cultivar. This cultivar patent is to be first of all authorized by the country itself, and then to be internationally recognized by the board which governs the tulip production of the world. And this patent in turn actually helps him not only to sell these tulip or these new cultivars that he has developed, but also actually give a specific name to that particular cultivar on the basis of the work that he has carried out. It has been seen that this cultivar development has nowadays been achieved mainly by those areas where tulip is adaptable or has been cultivated or has been domesticated, but people are trying even in those areas where its cultivation has not been as dominant as in European as well as Asian parts. As far as recent data is available, it has been seen that in American continent, especially in southern parts of America, they also have tried to domesticate tulips, try to commercially cultivate them, commercially produce them, and during that production try to develop new cultivars. But one drawback, one fundamental drawback of these cultivars is because of the tropical conditions, they have not been able to adapt to the basic habitat of the plant, that is temperate condition where it is commercially as well as normally cultivated as well as grown. It has been seen that American cultivars that have been developed in Southern America have adapted there only, but their commercial production, their usage at international level is not as good as they normally had claimed. And this concept has been initiated not only in India, but in Kashmir also, where the Department of Floriculture has initiated its commercial production in one particular center. As you can see, many different varieties have been grown there, many different cultivars have been developed, and they try to monitor them and modify them so that that cultivar becomes a patented right of that particular organization, as well as facilitate the cultivation of it not only on domestic purposes but also on the commercial scale. This concept has made tulip cultivation one of the most important commercial areas where the normal practice was simply to grow it as an ornamental, but it has been modified where its cultivation has been commercialized on a large scale. This concept has helped to become one of the leading floricultural industries, not only in Kashmir, not only in India, but at the international level. With this, I would like to conclude this series of lectures on cultivation of tulips. I hope that in future this advice or this guideline will help the cultivators who are actually using it for a domestic purpose try to commercialize its production and cultivate it not only to earn a revenue, but also facilitate its cultivation on a commercial basis as well. Thank you very much.